have the Aphelios left open, and that's where I would expect WE to go. They've really liked actually building that Galio composition around the Aphelios, and Jiumeng's had some good games on it.
Yeah, and it's important to mention as well these two WE bans of Azir and LeBlanc. While Cryin does play both these champions, these have been standard WE bans to set up Teacherma in the mid lane.
Well, this is actually so interesting so far, Munch, because WE pick up the Trundle. We've seen a lot of other teams love that, but Beishang himself has actually only played it once. It's not really this champion we think about initiating these early skirmishes.
When you think of Beishang, you think of Jarvan, you think of Echo. Those are really the two big ones.
You think of champions that want to jump in, right?
Yeah.
And sure, Trundle does have some early dueling potential, but isn't able to get in right in the middle of the enemy team.
All right, so let's catch up with this draft a little bit, because Wink has managed to find himself Aphelios that made it all the way through the bans. We've got Xiaobai going to be taking the Renekton. It's something Morgan's played a ton. It's something Xiaobai's played a ton. Both these top laners actually very similar when it comes to playstyle. And then we've got a Varus as the answer here going into the pocket of Jiumeng.
Yeah, and WE, I was going to say not left with many options, but need to pick up a top laner here because we know they like to keep Morgan on this small, effective champion pool.
But this is interesting because Morgan played a ton of Sett right at the very start of the split. We haven't seen him play Sett in weeks.
Nope, it has actually been missing picking it up a couple times. Kind of struggled on it in the early laning phase, but overall looked pretty good on the pick, so I like the flex pick coming out from the blue side.
Rek'Sai locked in for Wei. This is the second most played jungler throughout the regular split, so comfort across the board here for eStars so far, and a decent amount of early pressure across the map as well.
Yeah, and now it's about where do eStar want to go with these bans. If you do want to kind of play to the fact that Morgan has not been prioritizing the Sett anymore, you can ban out top laners, but actually, this makes a lot more sense, right?
Yeah.
Just focus Teacherma.
We've seen this draft strategy. This was how LNG took the games off of WE during the regular split, was just ban out Teacherma. Take away the Pantheon, take away the ASOL, take away the Galio, and see what he can do.
The only things left are really the Rumble, and you just mentioned the ASOL as well. If you went with something like a Nocturne, your draft would be way too AD heavy, so unless he wants to pull out the ASOL, he's going to have to show us something new, or something he's only played once.
We've seen the Diana a decent amount out of him during the regular split, but it didn't look that good. That's the big issue.
Yeah, it didn't look very convincing on the pick, so I wouldn't like to see it here. ShiauC has been trending a lot towards the Taric recently, and it's actually good against the way WE tend to play, where it is all about all-inning on you in these mid-game skirmishes, but WE have a lot of room to set up a kind of kiting and poke composition between the Trundle and the Varus.
We'll see if this is going to be locked into. ShiauC, as you say, has been playing a lot more of that, but he's going to go for the Nautilus in the end, which means the only hook champ remaining would be that Blitzcrank. If missing, will go for the hooks.
Yeah, and we actually haven't seen him go for that a lot. He's only played it once, and into the Nautilus doesn't sound like the best pick. I like where ShiauC went with picking up the Nautilus himself, because we just talked about how W can set up a comp that wants to play from a distance and actually going to go towards the Braum. So right now they are really setting themselves up to look to kite back in these team fights, but
I mean, we talked about this team playing around Jiumeng, right? They've built an entire squad that just wants to peel for Jiumeng, make sure that this Varus is safe. But now Teacherma, Syndra in the mid lane.
This really goes against the way that WE tend to play, though, of having pressure in the mid lane to where Teacherma can just move freely and then looking for these all-in engagements on the bot lane. Sure, you can have pressure depending on what Cryin picks up, but again, not characteristic WE at all.
We're going to see the Corki here coming through for Cryin in that mid lane, so we'll see how this is going to pan out. But as you rightly say, bit of a different style coming out for the side of WE. We're used to seeing these guys as the bro squad, right? The friendship and magic power that they group up and fight for dragons, group up and fight around bot. They will have a massive power spike at level 6 to work with out of Syndra.
Yeah, I actually really like WE's composition, even though it isn't standard WE. They have a really strong front-to-back team comp, and sure, eStar have kind of built a similar thing, but it's a lot more focused in the early and mid-game with the Rek'Sai and the Renekton. eStar are going to have to rely a lot more on playing through those side lanes with the Corki and with the Renekton.
And I think a lot of this game and a lot of this series is going to be about that first 15 minutes. We already talked about it. WE have a 0% win ratio when they're behind at 15 minutes. So those first couple of dragon fights, those first couple of fights around the bottom lane are going to decide just about everything.
Well, that's why I'm surprised they've actually gone for this composition, which does take a bit more time to get online. The nice thing is, Teacherma should have pressure in the mid lane. Syndra will have a fine time up against that Corki. But again, the rest of your map, not going to be too proactive early on.
So let's talk a little bit about the top lane as well, because we've got Sett versus Renekton here, but we've also got Morgan going up against Xiaobai. And both of these top laners have a fairly similar style where it's less about winning out your lane and being a lane dominant player, and it's much more about affecting the rest of the map, TPing in and making big plays in the team fight.
So that's what I actually loved about their last time meeting was eStar game 1, instead of focusing bot, they just focused top, made Morgan waste his TP on lane so he wouldn't lose out on too many minions, and then they still went forced to fight on bot side to get that, numbers advantage.
As the Gios from the community here. Even with social distancing in play, we're still cheering from home, and as it's time to jump into the first game of our Spring 2020 playoffs. It's eStar up against WE. It's 5th versus 8th with WE on the blue side.
And what we really want to keep track of in this early game is what Beishang is going to do with Teacherma's pressure mid. Because, as we've said before, Trundle isn't really the kind of jungler that has as easy of a way, getting in the lanes as like a Jarvan, right? The EQ is just such an easy setup for your laners. But here, you do have Baum with his passive, so you have some setup, but not too reliable. In the top lane, Renekton will have pressure against the Sett. So it's really about, can Teacherma and Beishang set up kills in the mid lane?
Morgan going to drop a ward here, but it'll be cleared. Xiaobai is going to be around Wei, so he gets to go and clear that one out. Wink, though, has been caught. Has to use the heal very early on.
And great late invade coming out from WE. We actually saw in eStar's last few matches, they'd continuously get punished level 1 to where they wouldn't even be able to really play the game.
And that, honestly, has been one of the biggest weaknesses for eStar, because you and I were looking through some of their recent losses earlier on today, and literally, the majority of them were something goes wrong at level 1, level 2. They fall behind on the first few levels, and then suddenly they start scrambling. When this team falls behind, in fact, both of these teams, when they do fall behind, they really, really struggle to find a way back into the game.
Yeah, but in kind of talking about level 1s, really interesting. Teacherma doing a great job of zoning Corki off this wave, and now we're going to get to see if WE can set up any kind of aggressive, maybe dive or play on the bottom half of the map with Teacherma being able to roam over.
We'll see who's going to make the first move there when it comes to these aggressive plays. Both of these teams very much known for having a presence in the early game, especially eStar being the Dragon Slayers that we know. WE going for these global compositions, typically they don't have that this time in the mid lane though. But Wei, he wants to make the first move this game. Cryin down to half HP, but Teacherma still with Scat of the Week, he's going to be completely fine.
Yeah, ganking a Corki lane isn't something you really expect. It's not the easiest time. Just trying to abuse Teacherma's mistakes in the mid lane. We saw in both of their games last time, Wei focused heavily on ganking Teacherma in the mid lane.
The early aggression coming through though, because Wei and Xiaobai want to make something happen onto Beishang. Trying to reset his blue buff. Teacherma will have priority in the mid lane, so he can move on over. Morgan's there as well. And I think Wei and Xiaobai realize this ain't going to end well.
Yeah, invading WE on the blue side is going to be very hard because it doesn't matter that Xiaobai's pushing in Morgan. He has a very easy time roaming over, and we've seen Teacherma just consistently pushing out this wave mid, so they would have numbers advantage if eStar did want to go for this fight.
You can see WE roaming up to get control of this dragon area as well, making sure that Wei doesn't get both of the Scuttle Crabs for himself.
So Beishang did such a good job of shutting out Wei. Comes back to his bot side jungle, has nothing. Didn't get anything from Beishang's top side.
Uh-oh, Jiumeng, we mentioned he steps out of position. His support flashes forward, but it's too little too late. Wink survives, and Missing has to waddle away.
And this is so disappointing coming out from Jiumeng because Wei wasn't going to be able to find anything on the map.
The action's not done just yet, though. Beishang has found Wei. It blocks him with the pillar. Flash available for Wei, but he's in a lot of trouble. Flash follow from Beishang. He's going to get a solo kill on the enemy jungler. Now straight onto ShiauC. Missing starting this one off. Gets the stun down. Pillar will be back up in just a moment. ShiauC flashing early on, but they're straight onto Wink. They want to finish off the AD carry. 2 kills for Beishang.
Joe, they knew where he was. They know that Beishang should be on this side of the map. He's going to have more experience than Wei. Beishang a whole level up obviously able to win that level 1. Then eStar's bot lane overextended from that pick they got onto Jiumeng, and WE setting themselves up for that early game lead that we always talk about.
And we talk about Beishang being the one to set up his laners, but this time he's getting set up. And Jiumeng, I mean, this is just disrespect.
Yeah, just walking through the middle of the lane. Of course, ShiauC is going to be in that brush. Very easy to go down, but again, Wei lost out so much experience. We see Beishang a full level up, has both of his buffs now, and Wei just left in a really bad position, going to have to flash out, but great play coming out from Beishang.
And he's able to just completely chase him down, beat him down with the club, and then straight onto the bottom lane. Bear in mind, Wink already flashed during that last fight, and he had to use his heal at level 1.
Yeah, so eStar really losing out on so much from the proactivity of Beishang, but also the mistakes coming out, especially from Wei.
And now Wink is going to be feeling the pressure in this bottom side a little bit. Jiumeng has returned to the lane. He's got himself an early cull. Now, Wink will be ahead in damage for the time being, but it's going to be difficult to find anything off the back of that because Beishang
I was just going to say that WE can just now consistently look to invade the enemy jungle, try to set up ganks and dive spot, or look to drag in anytime they want.
ShiauC's in trouble, actually. He's going to be stunned on up. Jiumeng has a lot of damage. The Q comes through. Wei, now the target, and here comes Teacherma. Flashes on forward. Can't get the ultimate. It's actually a waste of a flash from Teacherma. TP from Morgan. Showstopper available. There's a counter TP coming out from Xiaobai. We've got everyone on the map, and Xiaobai's looking for low health targets. He's only going to get onto Morgan. Facebreaker to stun 1. That's going to be concussive blows. Brings the Renekton in, but they can't quite finish off the kill. Xiaobai gets back out. Scatter the weak. No stun coming on through. Beishang trying to chase these ones down. Nobody falling just yet. Cryin now going to arrive on the scene as well. Hook goes through onto Beishang. He's knocked up and he will be taken down. The kill not quite traded though. Morgan now running. Teacherma, the only one with any health to work with. They've got to be careful. Scatter weak. Cryin flashes forward, stunned up. Xiaobai's in. They can't finish the kills. Facebreaker, they're all so low. They're barely surviving. Morgan, just about lives.
I don't even know how to describe this team fight. We saw so much mis-execution coming out from both sides, starting with WE just being way too impatient. The fact that it panned out with both teams picking up some kills, very strange.
That was absolutely nuts. What a way to start this game. And we said both these teams, they need to be ahead at 15, and you can see the desperation for that lead.
Oh, and they want to keep going.
Oh no, Jiumeng solo. No summoners here for the bot lane. Are they willing to go for the dive is the question. Ooh, Wink nearly gets it with the Calibrum there. Beishang's here. They will be able to recall.
And feels like WE end up in a pretty good position where the top wave is pushing back into Morgan. So he didn't really miss out on anything in the top side. He has a huge stacked wave there. We saw Teacherma make his way back mid, so he also didn't lose out on anything. And we see here, look at all these minions that Morgan's going to pick up. So his TP didn't detract anything.
One important CS difference, though, is in that bottom lane. We mentioned before that fight, Wink was 20 CS down. Not the case any longer. That is a huge swing in favor of Wink. He's got a BF sword as well to the Vamp Scepter of Jiumeng. That bottom lane is very much in favor of eStar right now. Another 1v1 up in the top lane, but Morgan not going to be able to really follow up on that.
Yep, so again, I still feel like eStar need to make something happen on this top side of the map, or Rek'Sai and Renekton will just eventually become useless. Ooh.
They are going to be going for that. You can see ShiauC's already roamed on up. Wink is here as well. The bot lane from WE are going to be late to this play. Morgan just sparring with Xiaobai. But the whole of eStar want to move on up and try and get involved in that skirmish. Cryin, the only one that's not here right now.
They did a great job of pushing in the mid-wave, stopping Cryin from coming. He's going to recall. So he's going to come now. They can collapse from both sides. Morgan actually in a very awkward position right now under his turret.
Cryin, he wants to go back and get that package, but doesn't have teleport available, so it's very risky to leave at this point. Morgan's still underneath his tower. Both teams nervous to actually commit to this objective.
Yeah, and right now, eStar trying to force priority in the top side so they can try and move back first. If we eventually do get a fight, feels like the two big ultimates on the side of WE we need to look out for are Syndras and Setts, while for eStar is all about Rek'Sai and Renekton.
Well, Cryin has recalled. He's going to go for his package in the meantime. WE have started things off on the Herald. They're going to try and force the fight while teleports on cooldown. Morgan the target for eStar, but the face breaker pulls ShiauC in, forced to flash. Knockup will go wide in the end, but that's going to be Chains of Corruption. They can't finish off ShiauC though, and Cryin's about to arrive. There's a hook. Oh, it's so huge. On to Missing. He flashes out to safety. Ignite ticking, and it'll go down to a rocket from Cryin. eStar win out the fight.
And just great hook coming out from ShiauC to catch Missing. They're now going to be the ones who are able to turn towards this Herald. Going to be a big boon for them if they can start snowballing the map. For WE, you now got to reset, try and get some vision on the bottom side, and start looking towards that dragon.
They need to try and find something elsewhere on the map, because when it comes to gold, we are dead even on the scoreboard right now. But when it comes to control, it feels like eStar are the ones calling the shots right now. eStar are the ones setting the pace.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to pick up all this plate gold, and Morgan going to lose out on a bit of experience.
They're going to drop the Herald here in the top lane as well. So we'll see Wink and Xiaobai collecting a lot of the gold there. Beishang realizes what's going down. Will be able to answer with a Cloud Drake on the bottom side. But honestly, a Cloud Drake does not make up for the deficit that just appeared.
Yeah, so now eStar are starting to open up that gold advantage, but still, WE pick. Ooh.
Morgan, that was cheeky. Hides in the brush, waits so he can get the eye of the Herald. This top lane tier 2 is still in a heap of trouble, even if he gets rid of the Herald.
I was going to say, I don't know if cheeky's the... It is cheeky, but I feel like cheeky has a bit of a positive connotation. You ended up flashing and you still lose tier 2.
True. I guess I just got excited because he got the Herald. Ultimately, they're trading a tier 2 in the top lane for a couple of plates in the bottom side. This is going very heavily in favor of eStar all of a sudden, and it goes back to what we were just saying. eStar are very much the ones in control of the map right now. What can WE do about that, though?
Right now, they're really going to have to wait for some of these item breakpoints to come out. Jiumeng still just sitting on his Vampiric Scepter, so not really going to be able to opt into any fights now, where Wink already has his Essence Reaver.
Yeah, Wink is large and in charge on the Aphelios right now on the bottom side, and importantly, Cryin as well. He's picked up 2 of those kills that have been happening during the fights. He literally, as I'm speaking, just finished the Triforce. That is a monumental power spike on the Corki.
And the thing going back to WE for their comp is, it also does feel like it needs to be ahead, just in the fact that since it doesn't have any engage, it needs to get on the objective first to try to make eStar walk into them. But they're not going to be able to do that from behind, and eStar actually going to be able to pull them apart with their side lane pressure coming in from the Corki and Renekton.
We already talked about WE during the regular season have a 0% win rate when they are behind in 15 minutes. Right now, they have 2.5 minutes to find a lead, or it's not looking good for this squad. Missing has stepped up to try and get a ward. Will be found by ShiauC with a hook here, but Chains of Corruption, they're turning this one around because Beishang was waiting in the wings. Knock up across the team. Wei just trying to hold the Trundle at base. ShiauC survives in the meantime. Xiaobai teleported on in. Morgan followed him. Everyone's arrived, but both teams back away.
Yeah, these fights are actually so confusing. Right now, eStar should probably be favored from the item advantages they have. Cryin even has a Triforce right now, but still really respecting.
The second time this game, Jiumeng takes that pathing and he's going to be punished again. Has to flash away. Morgan's there to protect him though with a face breaker, or with a haymaker, sorry. Will keep himself safe. I thought that was going to go a lot worse for Jiumeng than it did.
Jiumeng only having to burn a flash, but still, a flash is huge when you are an immobile carry coming out, you know, like a Varus. So all flashes, okay, Xiaobai did burn his flash, but the rest of your flashes are up. Your 2 main carries have theirs. So if I'm eStar, I'm feeling good.
For sure. I mean, you're always going to be feeling good with a lead at this point in the game. 1,000 gold ahead for them, but more importantly, 2 towers ahead. And when we talk about eStar, we talk about not just their objective control, but how safe they play around these objectives. Getting those towers early on allows you to set up the vision that gives them the safety to go for things like the Drakes, like the Barons.
And right now they feel comfortable just going with this 1-1-3 setup. Renekton in top, Corki in mid. Just keep having Corki clear waves. Probably wait for that Rift Herald to come up when we finally start seeing some action. But have Wei head towards the bot side, look for some pressure. You can try to rotate towards mid and find a kill on Syndra, you know, roaming 2 or 3 man over. But eStar also feel fine taking this slow.
You see 400 gold there for Wink off the back of the tower plates. It's almost as much as WE got off the tower plates in total. Morgan, he's going to be going for this Black Cleaver set build, not opting into the Blade of the Rune King that we saw coming through earlier on in the split a little bit. On the other side of the board, though, Xiaobai, he's going for the Blade of the Rune King Renekton that we saw Morgan have so much success on recently in their games.
Yep, just about punishing the enemy in the side lane. You're really going to get the most value out of that 1v1. Still going to be able to go into the Black Cleaver afterwards and still be quite a menace in these team fights. And I like that we see Xiaobai just pushing out top lane, getting vision in the top side jungle, and they're going to be set to track wherever WE is on the map.
They're going to have to, because WE are starting to move towards this dragon area. Both teams are, in fact, as Morgan getting aggressed upon by Xiaobai here. I don't think Xiaobai can actually try and force a kill. I'm surprised he went for the Dominus, honestly.
Yeah, just feeling very confident, I guess, but you talked about WE heading over towards the dragon area, but going to be very hard for them to set up vision without ever grouping up as a 4 or 5-man core in the mid lane and then walking into the river together.
But that is exactly what they've done in the past, is group up as this core, work together and make things happen on the map. And you can see Beishang moving towards the bottom side again. Ooh. Nice flash shadowing. He saw that one coming a mile away.
Yeah, so he does stay safe, but having to burn that flash is pretty big. Again, you don't have any real primary engage coming out from the side of WE. It is very skill shot reliant.
Cryin has a package again as the dragon is started by WE. This would be their second one of the game, and Ocean Drake at that as well. We'll see if the smite is going to come on down. Package across the team. Oh, it's Cryin that gets the Drake, and now he's straight onto Morgan as well. Going to be a kill on either side, but Winker's fallen. Teacherma with a nice flash. Wei now trying to finish that one off with the Void Rush, but he's protected by the team. Cryin will be stunned up and will be finished off. Double kill for Teacherma. Missing now, getting onto Xiaobai, and he'll be finished off. WE turn these fights around.
Yeah, eStar were not able to jump in as a unit. Teacherma especially did so much work deleting Wink with that ultimate, and we did say that mid-game would be their hardest fight coming in with this Syndra.
And you talked about it. Wink had to use his flash right before the fight, and then suddenly Teacherma and Syndra is like, oh, I've got a flashless Aphelios that has no mobility. That's an easy kill.
Yeah, so Wink just not really understanding how to play out the bottom wave state. Should have brought Wei over first, just be a bit more patient than play towards this dragon. But here we see ShiauC's the one to engage. Xiaobai still not in the fight yet. Wei in a very awkward position, not able to get in and do any damage. And just look at Xiaobai on the back. Can't get in there. Teacherma completely deletes Wink. And now still, it's pretty much been a 4v3 or a 5v3 this whole time. Xiaobai and Wei, Xiaobai finally jumping in. Wei still hasn't gone in.
Yeah, it's like if Xiaobai and Wei both go in while Cryin is being attacked, maybe they can turn that one around. I'm amazed Xiaobai went in kind of after the fight was done there.
Yeah, that was pretty confusing.
But that's the second confusing thing Xiaobai's done in the last couple of minutes, because trying to force the all-in onto Morgan right before Dragon's about to spawn, when both teams in this game are teams that play around these dragon spawns.
I think forcing the all-in was fine. Just the questionable use was, well, if you couldn't guarantee the kill, using that dominance was a bit too much. But still, not the same game we saw from eStar in their last matchup against WE.
And we're past the 15-minute mark, but both teams are even. So, I don't know where that puts us in the terms of the stats, but I know where it puts Morgan right now, because he's 1 versus 4 underneath the tower. It's going to be Xiaobai tanking, but he's pulled out of tower range. It's a big haymaker, but it's not going to be enough against 4 men.
Yeah, so they're going to pick up bot turret, but on the other side of the map, WE are going to be able to guarantee this Rift Herald and should also be able to pick up this top tier 1.
The question is, do they answer at the tier 2? Because we just saw this a few minutes ago. eStar, they took the top tier 1 and just rolled it on forwards to the tier 2. And they're looking to rinse and repeat that exact strategy.
On the side of WE, I feel like you really need to use this Rift Herald in the mid lane. Opening up side lanes doesn't do much for you when we've already set up the Corki and Renekton are going to have a good time. And breaking down a tier 1 against the Corki and Aphelios can be quite difficult in the mid game, so just doing it as soon as you can would be better.
Cryin gets a little bit of damage. I got a bit too excited about the tier 2 at the bottom lane. It's just going to be Cryin clearing the wave, then backing away. And as you rightly say, this Rift Herald will be used in the mid lane just to clear that final tier 1. So we're even when it comes to the towers across the map, but it's important to mention that it's all tier 1s from WE. It's a tier 2 in the top lane from eStar, but they've yet to break the mid lane.
Yep, so we're going to have to really start seeing eStar using this pressure from sides. Wei doesn't necessarily need to pair with Cryin because you don't have too much kill pressure.
Oh, flash forward. Chains Corruption misses, though. Now onto ShiauC, slowed by the pillar. Can they actually get onto any of these kills? The answer is yes. ShiauC goes down. Now they're going to try and chase down Wei. Morgan's here to head him off. Facebreaker, not going to be in range. So they just get one pick for themselves.
And WE doing a great job to find the pick in a very WE-esque fashion. Just they know their side lanes are in a fine state, just all commit to the mid lane. It's going to be a good advantage for them going into the next straight.
And this is exactly what we love to see from WE. I've referred to them in the regular split as the Star Guardians of the LPL because it's all about friendship and magic and working together. But that is how they play. They group up, they make things happen, and they play for picks, but it's not in the way that you classically think of playing for picks. They do it as a whole team.
Yeah, and it's very strange to do. Like, with their other comps, it makes sense, right? You have a Pantheon, you have a Nocturne, you have a Galio. You have these things that can move first and want to create these numbers advantage. This is not that same type of comp. You have a Baum and Trundle to kind of peel and zone, while you have a Syndra and Varus standing behind to, you know, deal all the damage. So, not the same style of pick comp you would expect.
But they're still kind of executing it in a similar way, at least during that final play that we just saw. But now as we bridge the 20-minute mark in this game, we're getting to the point where they're not really going to be able to find as many just pick-offs. They're going to have to start team fighting, and this is where we'll see whether this different style from WE is going to affect them.
I mean, they did really well in the last team fight as long as they understand their formation with Baum, Trundle in front, Morgan trying to find a flank, and their carries staying safe. Feels like it's going to be a lot more to whether eStar can coordinate the engage better than they did last time around. So we're looking at Xiaobai, we're looking at Wei.
Xiaobai is going to want to find himself a flank. Hook onto Teacherma is massive, though. Package is there. Redemption's too late. And Xiaobai is zoning everyone. Jiumeng's in trouble, but he will walk away with his life. Showstopper onto the backline. Cryin is stunned. Morgan can't quite get the haymaker. Won't finish off the kill, and it's a triple for Cryin.
And this time, eStar do coordinate the engage quite well. They somehow find the damage onto Teacherma with the package coming out from Cryin. Xiaobai do...
Oh.
Ooh.
Bonus kill? Nope. They don't commit to it. I feel like they could have got a kill there.
Yeah, they hesitated a bit, thinking, okay, well, we probably don't want to aggro the rest of the members into coming into us, but I agree. Looks like they probably could have gone for it.
Oh, TP comes out from Xiaobai. Oh, he's just going to start the drag. I thought he was going to try and get a flank on the mid lane there. eStar, though, first one to the Mountain Drake now. Everybody has respawned from WE, but they are still a long way away from contesting.
And honestly, it might not even matter the weakness of Rek'Sai and Renekton falling off.
Oh my goodness, Morgan with a very deep teleport immediately flashes out of it. I guess he kind of regretted his decision there, but it's going to force the Dragon reset here. So WE have a second chance at this fight now.
Yeah, and we have a lot of ultimates down on both sides.
They're going to step on up, and WE are actually going to claim this one. Oh, the flash for the ultimate! Teacherma, he can play Syndra.
Yeah, doing a great job punishing Wink's positioning once again, but no Dominus. I'm pretty sure ShiauC didn't have his ult at the time as well, so eStar not feeling confident to walk into them.
And we have been questioning this man's champion pool the entire split. He's played one game of Syndra leading up to this series, but so far he's looked fantastic in this game. 5-3-2, and now they can begin this Baron.
And I love this, just knowing their limits, forcing this objective, saying, hey, eStar, come into this, and using the neutral objective to try to force the fight.
Trying to bring them down into this scrappy gameplay that WE loves to play. 3,000 on the Baron. Wei on the other side of the wall, just he's desperate to find an opportunity to steal this one. Xiaobai with the Dominus. Vision going to be cleared. In goes Xiaobai, but he's already low, and he's finished off by Jiumeng. In goes ShiauC as well, but Wei is too early to go for a steal. He survives the ult from the Void Rush here, but he'll fall eventually. WE coming out on top of this fight. Wink's here though. Moonlight Vigil. It's not enough damage. Baron goes the way of WE.
And that's absolutely insane. WE forcing pretty much a 50-50 with if Wei had been able to get on that Baron, but having the confidence to do so. And this is what we love to see out of WE, this ruthless aggression where they're willing to force these plays.
And you know, eStar, they're a team that love to fight. They love to scrap with the best of them. But when you think about how eStar fight, it's more calculated than what WE are allowing.
And WE did such a good job of just peeling off the Baron at 2k gold. They didn't keep hitting it, turning all on to Xiaobai. Wei then jumping in is able to find a kill, but still in a bad position. They take him down, and Beishang is still alive, and they're able, just barely to secure that Baron.
And that Moonlight Vigil, I was so sure that was going to delete all of them.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get the Baron. When I saw the Baron go down, I'm like, oh my god, that's heartbreaking.
I thought it was going to be a Moonlight Vigil that gets the Baron and 4 kills. I could see the Reddit highlights of Aphelios in front of me, but doesn't happen, and it means that WE are the ones ahead.
Yeah, so they're in a great position now. We said as well that since their comp doesn't really have any great engage tools, right, it's a lot more about single target engage and they're skill shot based. It's a lot more about bringing eStar into you, and they're very aware of that, as shown by that Baron. So gonna do a great job at just grouping in front of these turrets and keep putting the pressure on eStar.
You can see the points in the game at which our two mid laners have picked up their items. Obviously the Morellonomicon coming in a little earlier than the Infinity Edge, as you would expect, i.e. such an expensive item. Xiaobai now trying to put some pressure elsewhere on the map because the siege has well and truly begun for WE on the bottom side. This is a big wave that's just going to be going down to the turret. You can see Teacherma on his way. He's going to be slow to arrive.
Yeah, Teacherma hesitated. If you saw, he started walking down, then started walking right back up towards his team, and then at the last second deciding, hey, I'm just going to go answer this wave.
Honestly, I feel like Xiaobai respected them a little too much there. He obviously thought someone was going to be quicker to the punch on that one. If he'd stayed, he could have finished that tower pretty comfortably.
Yep, but would have been in threat of Teacherma. Isn't that tanky right now, but still, I agree with you. Still, though, I think respecting the enemy was the best choice. You didn't know where Teacherma was on the map.
Very true, very true. And let's bear in mind, this is the first game of playoffs. This is the first game of a best of 5. You don't necessarily want to do anything too risky and throw anything away. Morgan in this side lane once again. 30 seconds on the Baron, and they've cleared a couple of tier 2 towers, but I think that's, in fact, they've only cleared 1 tier 2 tower, and I think that's all they're going to get out of it.
Looking at eStar's comp, you do have a lot of wave clear coming out from, Corki and Aphelios just being able to group up together, so pushing any of those inhibitor turrets is going to be quite hard, where very easy to traverse between them, so going to be a lot more about getting the fight set up in front of these neutral objectives.
I want to revisit one of the gold leads we talked about very early on into the game. Wink had managed to get so far ahead of Jiumeng. He'd finished a Caulfield's and a BF Sword by the time that Jiumeng had a Vamp Scepter. But when we revisit the AD carry items, right now, it's actually Jiumeng that's ahead. He's on 3 items already, which is a huge spike for on-hit Varus against the 2 items out of Wink.
Yeah, so like you just said, flipping the script, and despite the fact that you might look at eStar's comp and say, Corki Aphelios, this scales really well. This is going to do great in these late-game teamfights. I just love the setup coming out from WE's comp, which is going to give Teacherma and Jiumeng the room to deal the damage, because getting past the Trundle, Sett, and Baum is going to be pretty hard for eStar.
It's going to be very difficult to break through that front line. Cryin is going to be here alongside Xiaobai. Are they going to try and dive an inhib tower? They're just going to try and force the tower and take Morgan without any defense. He's on his own here in a 1v3. The rest of the team moving on over now. Jiumeng, it's not going to go for the ult onto Wei here. WE just lose a tower. Really, really great map play from eStar.
Yeah, I love that. That was a really smart play coming out from eStar. We said, hey, in these front-to-back team fights, W have a lot of tools to work with. eStar completely ignoring that and just splitting on the other side of the map.
And the question is a matter of priorities, because we usually think of eStar as these Dragon Slayers, players that play around this Dragon objective as one of their win conditions, but by going for the inhib tower, they've kind of sacrificed this and given WE sole point here.
And that mountain shield, actually stacking 3 mountains is going to be very nice in general with Trundle, Baum, Morgan.
I mean, you've been talking about how this is front to back. Having a beefier front line is always great.
Exactly, and then just having that little bit of edge with the shield on your carries as well is going to be really nice. I mean, everything is going to be on Cryin and Wink's back. Xiaobai and Wei won't be able to do anything.
Feels bad.
Well, maybe not anything. Not anything in these team fights.
Well,
we can see them use the side lanes.
More recently in the team fight, Xiaobai has been doing a valiant effort on the Renekton, certainly early on in the game, getting on into the flank. But that last team fight around the Baron, he just didn't have the damage to really get... You saw him go into the backline, and he was just too squishy.
That's the thing, right? When you're on Renekton, you're on a timer. So after this point, he's really not relatively going to do any more damage than he already does. Doesn't matter how many items he stacks up. Teacherma and Jiumeng are getting big. Beishang will be there to steal any of his tanky stats that he has. Morgan also building a lot of resistance on this Sett. Renekton is not going to hurt him.
So my question then is, if Xiaobai needs to try and play around these side lanes, how does Sett come into that equation? Can Morgan deny this, or is Xiaobai going to be able to threaten towers regardless?
So as Morgan, eventually you're just going to want to say, okay, I'm going to let you have this pressure in the side lane. I'm going to group up with my team. We're going to win the big 4v4 or 5v4 and take the Baron. You getting this one inner turret doesn't mean anything in the big picture.
So Morgan playing around the team. That's something we've said many times this split. And actually, Morgan winning out the trades as well.
This is why, right, we never use the term split pusher when we talk about Renekton. Sure, he can push inside waves, but you don't have any threat on turrets in most matchups. So that's why, like we saw at the last play, you need to do something like bring Cryin over, since he also has a TP, right? If you both go bot, you do find a kill on the Morgan. The enemy doesn't actually have a lot of Baron threats since you can both TP over.
TP's available. Morgan gets his opportunity just to shove this wave out as far as he can, and as you rightly say, this is his chance to reset and potentially move up to the rest of his team. Get ready for a potential Baron fight, because it's on the map right now as we hit the 30-minute mark.
Cryin having package, though, is massive. And again, he's, well, doesn't have it anymore, but he's the man to look at for this team.
He did have that package, but not for long. Missing. Oh, ShiauC, sorry. Barely getting away with his life there. The pillar. If he could have got that in front of ShiauC before the hook, that could have been a massive pick.
I don't think anyone on the team from WE was going to be able to follow up, so I just love the presence from Beishang to say, hey, I don't care. I'm walking into your jungle by myself. I'm throwing down this pillar. Like, you need to respect me.
I mean, look at his items. He is massive right now with 3 items on Trundle. He's very hard to kill. Look at this, though. Missing and Morgan playing bouncers right now. As you got the rest of WE in the nightclub that is the Baron Pit. They're going to start things off here. Moonlight Vigil actually doesn't connect in the end. Wei down to half HP already. They're just going to rush for the Baron because they've got the showstopper to deny Wei. A kill goes their way. Teacherma gets Xiaobai as well. Cryin and Wink suddenly find themselves alone here. ShiauC can't get near the rest of the team. Everybody's still alive from WE. The question is, what objective is next?
I mean, the objective next is to just push down mid as a team. You can even threaten a dive right now. It's 5v3.
TP available here for Morgan if he wants to just jump on in and help on out the rest of the team. 15 seconds on Wei, 30 seconds on Xiaobai. And WE don't look like they're going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, eStar really have no way to answer this play. I want to see if WE keeps going. Okay, I didn't think they'd be able to with death timers being so short, but with the confidence they've been playing with, you know.
I just wanted to see it. I just wanted to see them really force that, because obviously Morgan had the TP as well. But Dragon spawning in a mid. Oh no. Jiumeng's in trouble. Teacherma stuck around to help out his buddy. We call Teacherma the bro mid for a reason. He's going to stick around, make sure Jiumeng's safe. Jiumeng then immediately goes for another super risky recall, but he gets away with it this time.
I just love the way that Teacherma baited and switched the enemy. Playing Syndra once, didn't have a very good game in the regular season. He was streaming a lot, actually, and say, okay, guys, I'm going to practice some champions. Practice a bit of LeBlanc, practice some Syndra. Comes in, has an amazing game.
It looks absolutely incredible. You can see his ult there onto Wei.
The only thing that really strikes me about this play is we keep using the word confidence, but let's change to trust. The level of trust they had in Morgan to be able to showstopper away Wei and know that they could take the Baron.
Get him away from the fight. Wei now could be in trouble as he's pillared back on in, has to tunnel over towards the Wolf Pit. Dragon, about to spawn. This would be Sol for WE. Morgan has his teleport available. I'm expecting that to come in any second, but look how quickly this is going down. Wei can't get anywhere near right now. Teacherma can threaten a kill. That's going to be a Mountain Soul. He's going to get the kill. Never mind a threat, although Wei managed to survive. Now onto ShiauC. They're going to burn this health bar down. The damage from Aphelios is pitiful. There's a nice little Q coming out from Jiumeng. Now Wink, oh no, he's on the wrong side of the map. Wink is in a 1 versus everyone, and he's going to go down. Another kill for Morgan. And WE, as soon as they've got the lead, they will not let go.
I love that they just flash right into eStar. They're not afraid of being aggressive, and they know that this game is theirs.
They get to just waltz into the base now with no Aphelios around. Cryin I don't think he has the damage to win this one. He's a 4-item Corki, though. He'd have to play this perfectly. Valkyrie on cooldown now as they push into the base. Going for the first Nexus tower. Xiaobai gets into the backline. Just doesn't have the damage to get onto Jiumeng, though. Stunned up, and he'll be taken down as well. The tower, first one dropped. Now onto Wave. Void Rush comes on through. Can they finish any kills? The answer is going to be no. ShiauC falls. More kills for Jiumeng. A triple on the Varus. And game number 1 of the Spring 2020 playoffs goes the way of WE.
And I'd say a pretty unexpected result, too. It was a pretty decisive win from a bit of a, not slow early game, but no one found a clear advantage early on. It was very back and forth with a lot of these crazy team fights.
Yeah.
But once WE finally got a firm hand, on the wheel, they were able to just keep it going.
And you could see how tense those early team fights were as well, because when we were watching them skirmishing, it wasn't necessarily either team winning the fights, but also it wasn't even just close fights where one person survives either side. Both teams walk away with like 208 HP on every single player.
What's funny to me is that the fact is, this is online. So I didn't think the same nerves would come through for playoffs as like playing on a stage. But those early fights looked like a lot of nerves from both sides, where we saw a bit of mixed execution, a lot of hesitation, and again, at least ultimately WE did come out ahead.
Yeah, WE on a composition that isn't typical of them. When you look at that composition, you don't think of WE. You don't think of Trundle when you think of Beishang. You don't think of Syndra when you think of Teacherma. And even the Sett in the top lane, it's not something Morgan's played very much, but showing that this is not a one-trick pony team.
Yeah, like you said, across even Baum, Missing's only played it 4 times. This was his 5th time on the champion this split. So I love that the other day they actually tweeted out like, hey, we haven't showed everything up against OMG. They actually didn't show anything new against OMG, so I was kind of let down. But showing that, hey, they did have, a few more things in their arsenal.
And that's exciting to see if you're a WE fan at home, because when we've talked about WE, it has been a matter of, okay, if you can beat this one style, you can beat WE. Maybe that's not the case anymore. eStar struggling here in game number 1. And eStar, they actually looked really good during some of those early fights. It was once WE managed to take control, as you say, that was when eStar really started to flounder.
Yeah, they were doing well with Xiaobai earlier on, but after that one misexecuted fight around Dragon, just like WE were in the driver's seat the whole time, it was very hard for eStar to be able to execute through these side lanes, and I feel like playing through side waves is a tough way to play the game right now when you can just continuously force Dragons and build up to that soul point, and WE just did a great job on executing off that.
Yeah, and I have to say as well, WE playing a little bit slower when it comes to snowballing. They were playing a little bit more like we were explaining eStar's play, being quite safe around when they go for the Baron, making sure that they're setting this one up nicely. No? I thought they were playing pretty safe.
Did you see those Barons?
I mean, look, what I'm saying is they set it up. They had the set there to deny any kind of steals.
They had the setup, but like a team like eStar would never force a Baron with with the whole team in the enemy jungle up. They'd be like, no way, guys.
I'm comparing them to regular split WE. That as soon as you show up on their minimap, Pantheon ult, Galio ult, everybody jump on in. So comparatively, this was a reasonable game from WE.
I'll give you that.
We'll see if they can keep the ball rolling as they head into game number 2. We're going to jump into a quick break. Don't go anywhere.